Good afternoon and hello to this last session of MMPC 11, Block 4, Unit 15 on positive approaches to work behavior. In order to get a job, an individual requires basic knowledge, or in other words, we can say intelligent quotient can fetch a good job to an individual. But an emotional intelligence helps this individual to maintain good relationship, perform better, and the person can even raise in this hierarchy and be promoted and grow in the organization. But in order to get a satisfaction, a kind of a job satisfaction and an individual personal satisfaction, one needs to have spiritual intelligence uh, and be satisfied. So, I repeat, high intelligence quotient can fetch you a job. High EQ or emotional intelligence will give you better job satisfaction, and high spiritual quotient or spiritual intelligence will give you self actualization. You will be content with the kind of an engagement you had in your workplace, serving on the role that you are designated, achieving your goals, both personal and organizational, uh, and have that self actualization, that contentment of completing something, achieving something, serving someone. Now, for the high intelligence quotient, uh, one should have self confidence. This depends upon the knowledge one acquires, the learning and the skill that one bears, and you get a job. So, one must have some self confidence and they will get the job. In order to get promotion, you need emotional intelligence, and the promotion is based on the interpersonal relationship that you develop and maintain. So, you require social confidence, and if you can get your spiritual intelligence also work in your favor, then you will have the self actualization and you will have a whole life confidence. So if we have to move from self confidence to social confidence to whole life confidence, we need to have that spirit of positive approach. And this positive approach, if exhibited in the work behavior and in the workplace, we can achieve beyond our expectations and more than what we expect and more than what we perform. So we require a positive approach to develop that self confidence, and we require a positive behavior to be acceptable and develop the relations and grow in the organization along the hierarchy and achieve bigger goals as we keep getting more authority and responsibility and individually have a career growth, and we will have a positive approach to work behavior with our spiritual intelligence. If we look at again the same concepts in a slightly psychological perspective, uh, let us try to understand this. An individual who has this drive because of the intelligence an individual bears or has developed, now he will or she will be having that motivation that I am going to achieve this. You fix your targets and you start achieving it. So it is from outside to inside. The intelligence works from outside to inside. This is what is available. This is the course I will pursue. This is the rank I would attain. So it is from outside to inside, the drive moves. And when it comes to the emotional intelligence, you tend to interact with people and people respond, or when people stimuli send a stimuli, you respond to their stimuli and the interaction begins. So the drive is reciprocating to the external stimuli. And for spiritual intelligence, the drive has to come from within to the outside. Now, this is when an individual is considered to be truly motivated and will have highest level of, most possible high level of self-awareness and the self-knowledge the individual bears, the competencies an individual bears will be put into work or play, and the individual will start acquiring, achieving, attaining the desired goals and tasks. So, the power of positive thinking is optimism, and this optimism will move us from one level to the other. That is the intelligence quotient, a high IQ, to a higher EQ. But then for SQ, which is basically the core of an individual, so it has to come from within. The positive or optimism has to be worked from within. Okay, so the cognitive characteristics of a positive outcome expectancy and the positive causal attributes is optimism. We expect that this is what I'm going to achieve, this is what I'm going to acquire, this is what, or this is where I would like to reach. And that belief in self is that positivism or optimism. And this optimism is the drive which I talk. Either it works from outside in, or it is a response to the external stimuli, or it is an initiation taken by the individual, and that initiation will be positively responded. And the third, which is the highest level, that is this optimism works from the core of an individual to attain and target higher goals, keeping the relationships intact and at the best level of understanding, with the right kind of an empathy, care, concern, consideration of all things in order to achieve and be satisfied. And also, it can take you to the level of self actualization. So, optimism is related with hope. Now, an individual, we know individuals are different. So, uh, the optimism of an individual may also vary in degree. Like a child who has appeared an exam will hope to pass, but the parent who has seen the child to be playing more than studying may not have hope. The child is right, the child has put in his or her efforts, so the child is hopeful of passing or getting a rank. But the parent who has not seen much of the child studying or focusing may believe that the child may not pass. So the for the same event or incident, the hope level will be different, because the optimism for the event or the approach to the event are different by different individuals. Seligman identified causal attributions to interpret bad events from optimists or pessimist perspective viewpoints. Now, any bad event, how do we take it? It's not necessary that anything positive has to be taken positively. Even a positive event can be taken negatively. Now let us consider a negative event which Seligman suggests us, like a bad event, and how is it interpreted? There are some people who would interpret it in a pessimistic way, and when they do that, what do? They make an internal stable and global attribution. What is that? an internal. That means this negative outcome is because of a fault of mine, is what the pessimist thinks. The pessimist will consider like stable. That is like this particular it will last long or may bring in an ending the situation or the conditions or the interactants in the event, or and the third is the global attribution. Like it will the person will undermine themselves and think that situation the person may fail, right? On the contrary, the bad event, how does the optimist, the optimist takes it like external, unstable, and specific attributions. Let us see this. External. The fault may have lied in some external stimuli or I mean, and this may not be directly affecting to me, or if it affects, it can be temporary one. That is why it is said unstable, right? And they consider, the optimists consider it as specific. It is only in this event this impact has happened, it occurred negatively, but not in all. Even in the workplace, like an optimistic manager may neglect the needed action plans to attain the organizational goals, and they end up with some difficulty. Now, optimism in the workplace, how does it actually work? uh, Optimism, if an individual in the workplace has optimism, then they are motivated, they would be motivating others. They have optimism in the workplace has certain desirable characteristics, like one would go for achieving something, so achievement, one would enjoy good health, and one will have the perseverance to take up work, complete work, aim higher, and keep the cycle going on. Optimism makes external, unstable, and specific attributions we discussed, and optimism links with positive outcomes like occupational success and also good interpersonal relationships or positive interpersonal relationships. Um, Therefore, optimism is highly required in the workplace. And we have seen the benefits. We would be discussing more such benefits very soon. So when we say optimism is necessary in the workplace, let us see like what kind of jobs optimism contributes to. It is very valuable in jobs like sales, advertising, social services, customer services, health industry. In these places, or product design, new product development. In these cases, optimism is valuable and it works. Uh, but in certain jobs, optimism alone may not work, or optimism is quite dangerous there. That means an individual worker working in these jobs requires to bear a certain level of pessimism, and this pessimistic approach will be helpful in these jobs like the accounting job, the financial control job, or the technical jobs where safety is a concern. So there a little pessimism is required. Well, I remember a quotation saying, if both the optimists and pessimists have contributed to this world, if the optimist has invented an aeroplane, the pessimist has invented a parachute. That negative thinking has resulted in this individual to think of a device to keep the individual passenger safe even if there is an accident in the midair. So there are both, both of these approaches do contribute, but then we need to see the optimistic way, and we need to build that optimism in the core of ourselves in order to build that kind of a spiritual intelligence which is enabling the intelligence, the intelligent quotient and also the emotional quotient to function at their peak and progressive manner. Okay. If we take situations in the workplace, and we consider people's approach, like the example of a half full glass or a half empty glass. Now, people who consider it as half full are optimistic, who consider half empty are the pessimists, and how do they react to a situation? Now, those who are looking at the half empty glass or pessimistic, if they come across a certain situation where the boss takes an adverse action against them, may think of the spoiled relation, may avoid the boss, do not consider to clarify things, blame, complain, keep gossiping about the situation, the boss, and everything. Finally, get frustrated, not work properly, and it may lead up to termination or quitting the job. On the contrary, if an individual who considers or has an approach of a half full glass or optimism would consider why he or she has fallen into such a circumstance and what are the factors that are affected, would take an appointment with the boss or supervisor, sit and discuss like what transpired in resulting in such a situation that the individual is now facing. And this interaction or communication may bring them a result, an outcome, wherein they may take certain steps to correct uh, each other or the situation or the affected individual and overcome that event, that negative event, and move forward in life, move forward in the job, and keep the relationship intact and have that mutual respect as well as self respect. So, it is, and this optimism gives immense happiness to people, happiness or well being. When we are happy, we feel good all over the body, within and outside. And sometimes we express, and this expression is what people say laughter. So, if you are laughing, then you are in a you are having a well being and you are happy. So, let us see this. What is happiness? Is more readily embraced, and happiness is more readily embraced and valued more than the pursuit of money or economic benefits or even like moral good these days. Why? Because people have understood economic prosperity will not give them that complete satisfaction, that holistic life which they are sharing with, not only with themselves but with the people around them, in the workplace, at home, in the society. So people have started realizing that it is not the economic prosperity, but it is the well being that is more important for an individual to stay happy, experience happiness, and stay healthy and keep others happy. Now, the field of well being is flourishing because quality of life is important than economic prosperity. This is what more and more people are realizing, and they are trying to head towards a happy life and a well and attain well being. Personal happiness is more important because of the growing trends towards individualism. From a joint family, we are moving to individualistic and the nuclear families. We are trying to be more independent because of the advantage of technology that we have. People can work by themselves. More and more people are trying to be independent, and such approach will be good as long as things are going well and you are earning money and you have work to do, you are engaged. The moment you are alone by yourself, you would be seeking nothing but happiness and well being, because the good mind and good soul only can make an individual satisfied with the life he or she is living. What are the benefits of happiness and well being? Well being leads to sociability. Uh, we all know when we feel good, we would like to meet people. And when we want to be happy, we go meet people. So, well being leads to sociability, and sociability brings in better health. We share with people and we unload whatever stress we have. I mean, we download whatever stress we have and we get relieved by those thoughts. And possibly sometimes we may also get some advices from people or suggestions, recommendations. And if we work on it, possibly we will have a better time to spend. And well-being also leads to success. Well-being is kind of a self-regulation. When I know myself, when I'm self-aware and I have the self-knowledge, I can manage self. And this self-management will help me to or self-manage or self-regulate, excuse me. Sorry. And when we are happy and healthy, we tend to help others. um, Imagine someone approaching you not feeling well. Will you be in a position to even listen to their I mean, you wouldn't even welcome the other person to express what need they have, right? So well-being also makes us resourceful. In a workplace, we have to go for, we have to be resourceful. And when we are stuck, others will come forward. Now, this is because we have built the good relationship by keeping healthy, and that well being is what we seek. It enhances the creativity of an individual and helps in divergent thinking. When the mind is healthy, the mind tends to work better, function better, and give better results. Uh, Well-being persist. People with well-being persist longer in the job. In the have a longer tenure, uh, in the sense like they'll be effective for a longer time, they'll be productive for a longer time, and they will be giving high performance, peak for performance for a longer period, and they would be enjoying the job even if it is some kind of a drab. They don't mind because the mind is healthy, and they like the optimists we saw are consider this as unstable. I mean, this is only a temporary situation. It will pass off, pass away, and the time will, when better times will come. Uh, well-being makes an individual so very efficient, they may even go for multitasking, and they can be more systematic in their approach, and they would be focusing on their work much better. They would be having more attention on their work. Now, if we have to measure happiness, should we be going for objective or subjective measure? Now, it is not easy to make an objective measure because if I smile, you'll feel I'm happy. What if I'm smiling to mask my sorrow? Huh? We remember that song from those 70s and 80s. I do not remember exactly. Like, तुम आज इतना क्यों मुस्कुरा रहे हो, क्या गम है जिसे छुपा रहे हो. Now, people mask their emotions. So it is not easy to measure the objective happiness. Rather, we should think or should attempt to measure the subjective well-being. So the subject, and what is the subjective well-being then? How people evaluate their own lives in terms of the cognitive approach and the effective approach, in the sense like life satisfaction. How much is an individual satisfied with their life, and what is the effect of it? So what is life satisfaction then? Whenever the present situation matches the expected or desired situation or ideal situation, then we say life is satisfactory. Now, life would be satisfactory for many people, but they may not be happy, like those ultra rich people who have everything, but then they do not have happiness. So, life can be satisfactory, their work can be satisfactory, but they may not have that positive effect of being happy. So, the overall subjective well being, even though life satisfaction is 100 on 100, the effect isn't making it, keeping it positive, rather, it is reducing the overall subjective well being. And if we say an individual is dissatisfied with life, that means the present situation and the desired situation has a substantial discrepancy, right? And then what is effect? The effective part comprises both the positive and negative moods and emotions an individual bears, and that are associated with the day-to-day life experiences. So, life satisfaction plus effect uh, together define the subjective well-being of an individual. Now, uh, how do we nurture the subjective well-being? Is it possible? And if so, how? There are certain theories postulated by the social psychologists. The first one is they say zero sum theory. Happiness is cyclical. That means when it has a period of happiness, the following period may be unhappiness. So again, it goes up for happiness and then unhappiness. So it is cyclical, with a period of happiness and unhappiness. Um, I mean, it goes on. Um, we remember those days when we were having a lot of fun, giggling, laughing, um, having great fun, and then one of the elderly person comes and says, "Do not laugh so much. The morning may bring you sadness." Right? Something bad may occur. So they knew it. So it's regardless of the culture, the region, the religion we come from, it has been a universal truth that happiness and unhappiness are in a cyclical fashion, one moving into the other phase, and then we recover again from the unhappiness phase. So, another theory says that happiness is a fixed characteristic and is not open to change, but may not be so. It isn't fixed. Like it, we are not. Uh, we are not either happy or not happy from the beginning. Some life event may have changed an individual to either become more happy or stop being happy or be unhappy, right? Life incidents may have put people into a happiness or a unhappiness phase, and sometimes it gets fixed. So, over a period of time, it may not happen, but a particular incident may then lead to such a situation. Like, say, suppose a person wins a lottery, so they are on a spike of happiness, and then it goes for some period, and then it may mitigate gradually. Now, if we look at a negative incident, like maybe a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, uh, uh, that accident which put them into such a paralytic situation is an unhappy moment. But over a period of time, they realize, understand, adjust, and adapt to their life and to the conditions, and they nearly come back from that negative phase, or they level up the well-being. So that condition would not say. So it isn't fixed. But then there are certain instances where people fail to adjust, like widowhood, or say like loneliness, or say some kind of an injustice, and people keep living in the past and they cannot recover, and they cannot get back that state of well-being anymore. So it isn't true with everybody, but there are certain instances. So one has to manage this well-being from within through optimism. And how optimism alone doesn't work. The way we think, deal with a situation, and how we drive the optimism will result into our happiness and well-being state. Now, thinking and the intelligence. Journal Johar and Ian Marshall have suggested three styles of thinking, which are related to intelligence. So, first, let us see what these thinkings are. The first one is the serial thinking. Serial, that means it is in one track, okay, or we can say it is done across is a single neural track, okay. And this is about the logical and relational thought process. It's a serial processing, and this happens in the left brain. So the serial thinking happens in the left brain, and this is measured by the intelligent quotient or IQ. Now, we learn with IQ. I mean, when we learn, we improve our IQ, and this is the left brain's part. The second one they suggested is the associative thinking. This is done across the neural networks. I repeat, Um, Serial thinking was a neural tract, whereas associative thinking is between several neural tracts or the neural network. Now, which helps the mental associations or connections, say relational history, or say current experience, or future expectations. So it connects, and then an individual would exhibit his or her reaction or behavior. So this underlies the emotional quotient or the emotional intelligence. Now, it one can understand this with the emotional intelligence, and this is the act of the right brain. Okay, so the serial thinking, neural tract, and the associative thinking, the neural network. We now move to the third thinking, that is the unitive thinking, which is the creative, intuitive, and insightful thinking. Um, we are trying to go much deeper into the personal center, our self-awareness, our knowledge, and we come up with a synchronous processing of the left and right brain together, or the whole brain, we say. And this is spiritual thinking or spiritual quotient, which gives the ability to create and invent, come up with. See, create and invent is like coming up with thoughts, solutions, or alternatives to make a better decision, right? That is the creativity we are talking about. So it analyzes, it retrieves the information or the knowledge, and then it judges, or say it takes a decision what would be the best possible action, or it has a problem solving approach. So spiritual intelligence helps to address and solve problems of meaning and value, because they've considered the different networks, considered how the person would respond through the nervous tract, and finally a decision would be taken. Spiritual thinking helps to place our actions and lives in a wider, richer, meaningful context. And we tend to be more creative. We change the rules. We bring up alternatives. We work with this alternative situation. We alter the situation to dream, to aspire, to see the various uses of the limits, and limits of both understanding and compassion, right? So let us look at the definition of spiritual quotient. I would like to read it. Spiritual quotient is the ability to apply, manifest, and embody spiritual resources, values, and qualities to enhance daily functioning and well being. Now, uh, spirituality and religion seem to overlap, but then focuses on rituals and beliefs with regard to the sacred entity, right? But spirituality refers to the individual experiential elements of meaning and transcendence. So we understand, um, like, how do we act, and this action of ours does justice to us and the others involved in it, or it becomes an example for others to overcome a similar situation in future. So it is exemplary. So spiritual intelligence is not only useful to the individual in the moment, but also it is a learning experience for others. Now, spiritual intelligence, they say, is hardwired. When we are born, we have that entire apparatus or setup uh, to think with a spiritual intelligence, but we don't. This is because we need to work on it. We need to activate it. We need to charge it up. We need to put it in functional. We need to practice and we need to use it. Right? So, though it is hardwired, it requires to be developed. Now, it is important to activate the spiritual intelligence intentionally. We need to take an active or proactive approach in order to make our spiritual intelligence work for us while still we are the IQ and the EQ. And we would convert the spiritual intelligence from a random fleeting experience into one of our most valuable personal resource. Excuse me. Sorry. Spiritual intelligence is, in a way, um, the intelligence of the soul, because you use your body, mind, your cognizance, everything, and then you come up with the best alternative that is good for you and others. Now, how do we use this in the workplace? So, what is workplace spirituality? Spirituality in workplace can bond people together, the employee and the supervisors. It can enhance job performance. It will give us job satisfaction. It will offer a higher sense of service. Um, a person with spiritual intelligence wouldn't hesitate to step forward to help someone, to walk that extra mile, right? And when we do this, we certainly spread the positive vibes and create a contagious impact or behavior, and this goes on from person to person, and we build a culture of helping each other. Um, so it gives a greater personal growth to the individual and to the organization altogether. Spiritual intelligence leads to better teamwork and also commitment to performance uh, in the organization, with the teams or individual as well. Workplace spirituality addresses inner life, uh, more meaningful work, and results in a meaningful community. Now, spirituality performance connection is enabled by the spiritually oriented leaders or spiritually inclined leaders. We just talked about how this becomes exemplary. The acts of an individual becomes exemplary. Now, if the leader does this, then the subordinates will take it up more easily because they have utmost faith on the leader. And for a leader, it is recommended to work with spiritual intelligence, wherein he would initiate or he would trailblaze a culture that can bring such positive vibes all across the organization. Everyone has the spiritual intelligence, but then few learn to develop. That's why we say it is hardwired, but then it requires to be activated, put into task, and put into purpose or use for us. IQ manages facts and information using logic and analysis for decision making. When we know how something works, so we use our intelligence. Um, And emotional intelligence is necessary to understand and control oneself and others, and this will help in working together in the team. We control our emotions, our feelings, and we bring in a well-being and a sense, and we uh, create a feeling of a fellow feeling of caring for others, right? Considerate, being compassionate and considerate about others, while spiritual intelligence is necessary to find the use of deepest inner resources, from which comes the care, the capacity to care, or the power to tolerate and adapt to situation or other fellow employees. Um, Spiritual intelligence develops a clear and stable sense of identity as an individual in the context of shifting work relationships or workplace relationships. We talked about role differences, role switching, right? Now, when that happens, one needs to have immense spiritual intelligence to play that multiple roles. Sometimes the role duality can be played clearly. Spiritual intelligence helps us recognize the real meaning of events and circumstances, and makes us able to work meaningfully. Now, spiritual intelligence identifies and aligns personal values with a clear sense of purpose. Now, spiritual intelligence is necessary to live those values without compromise. Many times we are in a fix whether to take a certain step or not, but it is the spiritual intelligence which justifies our actions, the decisions we take, the way we behave, and thus we can demonstrate an integrity of an individual, that is what we are. Then spiritual intelligence is necessary to understand um, where and how any of these which we discuss now can be sabotaged, and then how do we react, or how do we overcome from such a situation, or we can understand the true cause of anything that happens adversely or against our interest. Now let us see how spiritual intelligence contributes to effective management leadership. Now, spiritual intelligence qualities like confidence, um, both in meaning and purpose of an individual's role and task, the sense of mission in life, and the vision for the betterment of the world, um, all this tied into the inspirational elements of leaders. Now, transcendental leadership, which comes, which works through the transactional and transcendental, transactional and transformational leadership. Now, this transcendental leadership comprises three dimensions. The first one is consciousness, and the second is the moral character, and the third is faith. Now, as a leader, uh, as the leader grows along these dimensions, they develop greater awareness and intuition along the consciousness, and they are guided by the internal set of universal values, by the moral dimension, and and more inner directed um, along the faith dimension. Uh, And these in turn lead to the internal locus of control and greater leadership effectiveness. So when it is internal, then they evaluate the entire situation, keeping in mind themselves and others, and the holistic benefit or the benefit at large, even to the environment, and act accordingly. Now, effective leaders manifest greater self awareness and greater creativity. This is possible when they have the spiritual intelligence working. Now, spiritual intelligence states three qualities of leadership. One is vision, the other is altruistic love, and the third is faith. Faith can also be referred as hope. Um, Now, these dimensions help a leader to exhibit better spiritual intelligence. Now, spiritual intelligence enhances the emotional intelligence and the social intelligence. Also, it improves employees' quality of life and well being, which impacts on the employee with a higher emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, um, while the leader exhibits a sense of purpose and meaning for life and work together. This results in the spiritual intelligence transforming the employees to feel the sense of interconnectedness, the bonding, and they exhibit the social responsibility of working together. Um, and working together and for the benefit of the organization and environment at last. This fosters uh, uh, what we say the inclusive behavior, which we were discussing few days back, among the employees and the leaders. Otherwise, the diversity management wouldn't be possible, right? Um, we require that drive, that positive passion, that positive, that optimism to make this intelligences work, and spiritual intelligence will in turn impact on the more superficial intelligent quotient and the emotional intelligence. So, emotional intelligence, how does that work? Management in the last 2 decades has shown certain management leadership has shown certain management styles, and this is the customer orientation and the knowledge based approaches, in order to work as a team and deliver for a more overall autonomy, even at the lower levels of the hierarchy. And thus, the organization has become more of a flat structure. Uh, and we see less autocratic organization culture because of the emotional intelligence. Hence, those with highly developed social skills are more successful. And this is because of the emotional intelligence one puts to use. And emotional intelligence is the summative of the competences. Competences, that is skill, abilities, and knowledge to cope life more effectively, and understand one's emotions, to manage oneself and the fellow employees or the team members, in order to accomplish bigger, larger tasks and achieve more together. Um, there are certain emotional intelligence models that can help us understand this better. The first one is the trait emotional intelligence model. It says, I would like to read it. is a constellation of behavior dispositions and self-perceptions regarding a person's ability to recognize, process, and utilize emotion-laden information. And this needs to be measured, and there are various tests to measure this emotional intelligence. The second model is the emotional intelligence models based on abilities. That is, it maintains emotions as a vital information source, and that enables a person to make good use of the social environment and the context. Individuals' ability to process differs from one to the other because of the, it varies from one person to the other. And and there are four abilities that are identified. One is perceiving the emotions, using the emotions, understanding the emotions, and initiating the emotions for the larger benefit. Now, there are certain mixed models of emotional intelligence as well. In this, there are several models, but the Goldman's model has been considered to be uh, the best and is more, it has more clarity, I would say. And the five Goldman suggested the five primary domains or characteristics to understand emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness, where an individual has to have, make a SWOT analysis and understand self. And when the person has an understanding of self, the person will be more confident. Then the person recognizes who they are as an individual and as a team player, and with the role, how would they act and behave and accomplish the task. um, the next one is like the self-regulation or self-management or controlling self. In this dimension, uh, Goldman suggests like with the awareness of the self, and if we understand the situation in hand, we can control our emotions, our expressions, our feelings, and act in a manner that we would only bring in positive vibes and help the task accomplish for self or working with others. And we would be on an achievement drive or spree, which will again be contributing. And when we are aware and when we can regulate, then we can take better initiatives. Having said this, one must have motivation, or what we call it like the internal motivation. And this internal motivation leads an individual towards meeting the goals. One may set even larger goals, so they may take initiatives and also maintain that excellence and optimism in the task, in self, in the relation, uh, and the goals of the organization. The fourth dimension Goldman suggested is social awareness. This can come only when an individual has empathy and the perspective to understand from the other person's view or viewpoint. And empathy will help uh, in understanding the other individual, the situation, and the organization. So we get an organizational awareness when we have this social awareness, and we will be service oriented because the communication between people has helped bring in an atmosphere where it is conducive to beat the best challenges, the toughest challenges, and the social awareness helps us here. And finally, the relationship management, wherein we tend to have that inspirational leadership in developing others, influencing others, going for that positive change or growth, and and we try to build the bonds for a longer term and keep the relationship intact for an extended period, and we can collaborate and work better. So the emotional intelligence and the spiritual intelligence can help individuals with the right degree of passion and optimism and make the workplace a heavenly. I mean, it's difficult to make it a heaven, but certainly it would be a wonderful place to work and work with others. Thank you.